Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am up at my new office. If you have not been watching my latest videos, I have an office out of the house. It is so wonderful and I can film up here, and I just had a mentorship session. It has just been so great to get everything out of the house. Excuse me if I sound a little bit stuffy. I am. We have had like super high allergen pollen counts here as spring is springing, and I am feeling it. I take allergy medication 365. I've been doing like the neti pot and steam showers, humidifiers, the whole 9 yards, but I have always had bad allergies. So today I wanted to do a little rooted update. So if you are new around here, let me explain briefly. Several years ago, I guess it would have been 2017, I believe. Throughout the year of 2017, my word for the year was rooted. And to me, that meant finding my place in our small town. So previous to moving here and getting married, I got married and then moved here. I had lived only in larger cities and had never struggled the way that I struggled finding my place in our small town here. And I documented that whole journey on YouTube over the course of 12 videos or so. So every single month at the end of the month, I would check in and talk about how it was going, plugging into the community and making friends and finding my place and all of those different things. And it was a journey. It was such a journey. And it was something that I just did really kind of like as a personal project. I wanted to hold myself accountable to really working to find my place and all of those sorts of things. And what ended up happening was so many of y'all came along on the journey with me and were so supportive. And many of you also were on your own rooted journey, or since then have moved to a new city or started something new and have kind of begun your own rooted journey. And we have talked, so many of y'all and I have talked in comments on Instagram, over email, even snail mail about getting rooted and the process and all of that. So if you want to go back and watch that whole series or any part of it, I will leave a link to that playlist in the more info bar below. There are lots of tears. It's very raw, very, very raw emotions and just the struggle. It was such a big struggle for me. So this coming Thursday, so when you watch this, a few days ago, is actually our 5-year anniversary of moving into our home. And then this coming summer, it will be 6 years since we moved here. So before we moved into our home that we're in now, which we've been in for almost 5 years, which is so wild. Before that, we lived in an apartment, but we've been in this small town for 6 years come this summer. So in the past 6 years, we have had high highs and low lows. And the beginning of the journey, to be honest, as you saw, if you watched those rooted videos, included many lows, many, many lows. I struggled a lot. I cried a lot. I had a really hard time. I just struggled so deeply with finding my place here, with finding friends, finding community, just all of it. I really, really struggled. And in more recent years, we've had so many more highs and things have gotten a lot better. And it really has been a matter of persistence, a matter of really digging my heels in here and finding my place and finding my people and just being so patient, because it honestly took a long time. I would say that having moved here in the middle of 2015, I would say I really started to feel like I had my place in spring and summer of 2018, and then 2019 I would say is when things kind of leveled up. And since 2019 I have felt so comfortable here, very happy, very relaxed. I don't dream about moving constantly. I don't dream about leaving constantly, which was my constant dream in earlier years. So the way that I'm going to kind of do this video is I'm just going to kind of touch on different parts of life. So I actually like Googled wheel of life or parts of life, and it came up with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different areas of life. One of them is financial, so that's irrelevant to this conversation. There's a couple of them that are sort of irrelevant, but I'm just going to sort of use that as a guide. I don't have any notes. This is my life, so it's easy to talk about. But let's just jump right in. So the first thing we'll talk about is social, because that was the biggest struggle by far, as you guys know, with moving here, was finding friends. It's just really hard as an adult to make friends, I think, in any city, large or small, it's just hard. It's hard to make friends as an adult. A lot of people are married, living with partners, they have a significant other, many folks have children, people have careers that they're establishing, they have homes to look after. It's just a whole different ballgame than, say, my college years, where it was a bunch of young adults on campus and everybody was looking for friends. There were so many groups, clubs, activities, events, all kinds of things to go to socialize and meet people. Not the case as an adult. And so I'm trying to keep an eye on the time because I need to head home in about 20 minutes to relieve my nanny, but hopefully we can get through this in the next 20 minutes. So that was definitely finding a social group was the hardest part for me here. I will say I wish I had like some magical suggestion or advice that I could give you. For me, it really just took time. It took time to meet different women and get to know them and develop deeper friendships with some of them. It just took time, and the reality is that you just don't click with every person you meet. And there were many people, and there are many people who are in my life who are sort of in my outer circle who I have good feelings towards. I enjoy having a conversation with them every once in a while, but the reality is that we are not close, dear friends. We don't talk on a regular basis, and that's just normal. That's just normal. It's okay to not, for everyone doesn't have to be your best friend. You don't have to click with everyone. But I would say at this point, I have about 3 or 4 really, really dear, close girlfriends in town. And I am so grateful for that because there were months and years where I just was like, just one friend would be great. So to have 3 or 4, all of them have children that are young, and so we can relate to each other on that level. They're all around my age. All of them are married, and we just have a lot in common, and we get along really well. And in fact, all of them are friends with each other or know each other in some way. So it's fun because, in normal times we can get together and go out to dinner together, that sort of thing, and kind of have some overlap in our social circles. But definitely about 4 women that I talk to regularly, I text with regularly, I see regularly. Right now it's a lot of walks outside and things like that. But it's just really nice to have that. So that has been by far the greatest improvement, and it really is the people that matter. And there were so many things when I moved here. Let's talk about like physical surroundings. I just couldn't stand that we're not near so many different things. There aren't the amenities of a large city here. There's not lots of restaurants that are, available. There's no Target. There's no all these sorts of things. And I used to just hate that. And honestly, now I never think about it. I never ever think about those things. It's become so normal. I buy things online if I need them, or I just make a day of it. It's about 30 minutes to get to any of those things from where we are. 30 minutes is no big deal. I put on a podcast and I go and get what I need to get done. So what used to be such a huge, awful, sinking thing that we were so far from everything, it's like no big deal anymore. I honestly do not even think about it. It's not something that I get upset about at all anymore, whereas I used to get upset about it so often. In fact, I think in some ways I prefer it. I feel like I'm more intentional with my spending because I don't just go walk around, like Target or a mall, or there's nothing like that here. So I don't go and do that because it doesn't exist. And so I'm not just spending money mindlessly all that often. Now, you have seen, if you watch my weekly vlogs, that I do love a good Walmart haul. Never thought I would say those words, but I do love it. And so sometimes I do go, and get some groceries or whatever, get some things I need. And Walmart is shockingly, they have, our Walmart especially, my mom always says, she's like, your Walmart is so much nicer than the one that she has in her, where she lives. There's cute clothes there. There's anyway, so that's besides the point. My point is I don't regularly get upset at all about what we do or do not have in town. But I think that a lot of that has to do with just time. I'm just used to what we do have, and I'm used to what we don't have at this stage. Whereas when I first moved here, I was moving from Austin, Texas, which is a huge metropolitan city with so many amazing restaurants, amazing shopping, amazing places to go. And so I was going from one extreme to the other. It just took some time to get used to that. But now that I'm used to it, it's like a non-issue. I don't even think about it really, hardly at all. As far as our home, kind of moving it, I guess I'm not following this wheel of life very much, but it's kind of helping guide me a little bit. As far as our home is concerned, We love our home. Like I said, it will be 5 years this week that we've been living there, which has been so wonderful to just settle in and really make it our own. Every room pretty much is like decorated to some level or degree. And it's just functional. It works for us. There are definitely parts about it that we would like to change and that we have sort of outgrown, especially as Nora continues to get older. Our daughter, she is about 1.5 right now. And so with that, the main thing is that I really, really wish, we both wish that we had a larger lot. We wish that we had more garden space, more outdoor space, a bigger backyard, a larger front yard. Like we just have such a little itty bitty lot. We live in a home that is in a development where, you know, all the homes are right next to each other. And when we bought this home 5 years ago, it was perfect because we just had a little dog. We still have him. And so we just needed a little backyard for our little dog, and that was just fine. But now that we have a toddler, we're really wishing that we had some more space. So that leads me into the moving conversation. Now, this has been something that has been heavily influenced by the pandemic and everything that went along with it. So pre-pandemic and even early in the pandemic, our plan was always still to move to a suburb of Dallas, south, and that has been our plan. I've discussed that here online several different times, and move into a neighborhood there where there are more schools, school options, better school systems. Sorry, I feel like I'm about to sneeze. All sorts of things like that. And that had been our plan all along. Well, ever since the pandemic, and we really have reevaluated things, and I feel like our roots have been driven deeper, that's no longer our plan. So our plan now is to stay here in town. We have in this area an incredible homeschool network and homeschool co-op. In fact, Riley's mom, my mother-in-law, was one of the founders of that co-op, and it is now huge and like it's amazing, so amazing. And literally all of my friends, they all have children, like I said, around Nora's age, but they all have multiple children, and all of their older children are school aged. And they're all doing these homeschool co-ops, all of them, all 4 of them. And so I've learned so much about that, and I don't know for sure that that's what we'll do. There are some other options as well, but I think that's probably the direction that we are leaning. I don't know quite yet. It will depend a little bit more, as she's, like I said, 1.5. So as she gets a little bit older, we'll see. But I think that's probably a really solid option for us as we move forward. And there's a lot of pros to that I see, especially with the co-op factor, because there's so many things that the kids do as a part of the co-op that I think would be really neat and a really enriching part of schooling. So I realize there are very strong opinions on both sides about that. I ask you to please respectfully refrain from throwing those opinions at me. Each of us have to make decisions for our own children and our own lives, given the resources that we have at our fingertips, given our lifestyles, what works for us and what works best for our children. And that might be different, you know, from one family to the next. And I totally respect that. I grew up going to public schools and overall had a really good experience. Riley went to a private school in his younger years and then was homeschooled like 5th through 12th grade and had a fantastic experience. Highly social, has lots of friends, all those things. So I've seen different sides of the coin, and we'll make that decision as we get closer. But all that to say, with regards to home, we are not planning on moving out of this city anytime soon. In fact, we have been actively looking at land and homes to move into or build that would be larger, specifically that have larger lots, because we are just aching for more outdoor space. With a toddler, you know, that's the way you wear them out. You take them outside, you let them run, and it's been challenging right now because we do a lot of packing up and going to the park, which is great. It would just be really nice if we had more space on our property. So there was a lot that was actually for sale in a very desirable neighborhood, at least to us. And it was about 1 acre, 1.5 acres. It would have been a really great size lot, and we were, you know, talking about purchasing it now and then maybe building on it in the next couple of years. And it got snatched out from under us by a builder. And so a builder is building a spec home on that lot, but we are in conversation with the builder to see if perhaps we could kind of work with them and maybe choose some of the layout features and the finish features and sort of like not have it be a fully custom home, but like a semi-custom home, and then we could be the end buyers. So we're gonna see. If that works out, it'd be beautiful and wonderful. If not, we're in Texas. There are more lots. There's a lot more land. You know, there's many more options. There are also a couple of homes that we have looked at. Many of them in this area would need to be flipped, top to bottom, flipped. There's one home that is just beautiful. The lot is beautiful. The home is beautiful. It is spacious. It would just be a really nice next step for our family. But y'all, it needs to be flipped from top to bottom. I mean, it needs to be like gutted. It is really, it needs work. I'm not sure we're totally up for that. We'll see. We'll see as time goes on. You know, kind of where we go with that. We definitely have no firm plans. We have not made any firm decisions at all. No firm plans. I will keep you guys in the loop as things unfold. If they do unfold, Riley is really eager to move into sort of our next step, our next home, or whatever that may be within the calendar year, within 2021. I feel more like, you know, I love our home. We're settled into it. I really hate moving. It's such a giant pain. So it would have to be such a perfect circumstance for me to want to move that I feel more relaxed. But the idea of more outdoor space is extremely appealing to me. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys in the loop. It's fun to think about. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but at some point we will move. Our home that we purchased definitely was a first home for us. It was never going to be our forever home. So we'll see what happens as time goes on. Another aspect on my little wheel of life here is career. And I feel like that is an area that I am just gushing with excitement over. I feel like our decision to move to this small town, the most amazing impact that I never could have foreseen, the best growth, the best like unexpected blessing has been in the area of career for both Riley and for me. It just has been incredible. So I feel like I have been given this opportunity and like this space literally and physically to just grow my business. My business has grown so much year over year. I just look at it and I have like all kinds of charts in accounting and it's just growing so much. I'm so excited about that. And so much of that is because we live here. It's because of the family business that we are a part of. It's because of the time and space that I had in those early days when things were rough of just pouring into my YouTube channel, at one point pouring into my blog, and then starting my Etsy shop and really pouring into that. I just feel like I never could have foreseen, never ever could have foreseen where I would be within my career now. It's just been really cool. It's been really cool to watch all of that grow. I grew up, Riley comes from a family, excuse me, I'm so sorry. These allergies are like wearing me out. Riley comes from a family of entrepreneurs. I do not. I can't identify a single entrepreneur in my whole family. My parents were never entrepreneurs. My mom is now. But at the time when I made the decision to step out of any kind of corporate traditional job role way back in 2015, like my aunts and uncles aren't, my grandparents weren't, it's just not something that is big in our family. In fact, I would say the opposite is true. I think traditional jobs are expected and sort of what was, I think, kind of expected of me. And I was like the wild one who moved out to Texas and like is starting my own business. And I think everybody sort of was like, what is this girl doing? Whereas Riley's family, like literally they're all entrepreneurs. His dad, when his dad was alive, was an entrepreneur. His mom is an entrepreneur. His grandfather, his uncle, like it's a whole different story. And I feel like being in that environment and being down here and it's just been really cool. It's just been really, really cool. So huge blessing. I just love my job. I love what I do. Financially, it has been such a blessing. I get to see my daughter a lot. I have this amazing office space now. This is still new to me. I've only been in it for about a month and a half at this point. So career is like something that has just blown me away and I've been really excited about ever since moving here. That was the one thing I poured myself into when I was just like kind of miserable in all other areas of life. But now it's just sort of gravy. Like I love what I do. And I can't believe I get to do it and make a living. Like, I think it's so fun and so cool. Love it. Another thing on this wheel is spiritual life. So I have definitely talked some about, and this will probably be the last thing I'll discuss. Maybe a little bit about family as well. So spiritual life, I'm a Christian, and when we moved here, we had a hard time finding a church, and then we found a church and loved it and got super, super, super involved. And then what ended up happening was it was a really little church plant, and so it was a very small group of folks, like maybe 20 or 30. And it was like a family. Like, I was so close with those people. We were all super close. But what ended up happening was our small church was like merged with a very large, older church in town. And so it really changed, as you can imagine, it changed the dynamic, it changed the culture, it changed like everything about the church. And so we attended the larger church for about 6 months or so, and just knew that it just wasn't the right fit for us anymore because things changed so much. And so it wasn't like a super dramatic exit or anything like that. You know, it was sort of like, this just doesn't fit us. We just don't feel like we fit anymore, you know, whatever. Which, of course, that happens, you know, when church mergers happen, and there were a lot of other folks who also stepped away, and there were a lot of folks who came to this new church of the merged churches. So, you know, God's kingdom advances, it's all good. So after that happened, though, and we stepped away, very shortly thereafter, I gave birth to Nora. I had a really hard postpartum, and then right when I started coming out of the fog of postpartum, COVID hit. And so it was a very long while before we were back regularly in a church. Now, we were watching church services online, listening to a lot of church sermon podcasts, you know, that sort of thing. It's just not the same. I know a lot of you guys can relate. Like, it's just been hard during this pandemic to feel connected to a church because of how, like, upside down everything's sort of been. Well, since the beginning of this year, we have been virtually attending and then in-person attending another church in town that actually came about over the past 2 years. It's a new church in town that was just planted here, and we just love it. It is like it's all young families. They have a really great children's ministry, and so we've been going there, and they have been open on Sundays, you know, masks and all that kind of thing, but we've been going and just really enjoying ourselves and slowly getting plugged in, slowly meeting other, you know, families and couples. We do know a couple of other families that already go there. So anyway, that's been a super positive thing. So our experience with being plugged into a church has kind of been up and down just because of all those things I just explained. But we're in a really good place now, and we're kind of re-engaging and getting back into being a part of a church family and a church community as much as these days and times allow. But it's been a really positive thing. Definitely been a really positive thing, and it just feels good to be back in a community of believers after sort of a dry spell between postpartum and pandemic. So that is sort of like spiritual life, however you would want to define that. And then the last thing I think I'll talk about today is family. So I don't have any blood relatives anywhere near here. My closest family is all the way on the East Coast. I don't have anybody even in between the East Coast and here. And so in normal days and times, I fly out there all the time, but obviously we haven't done that in a while. Although this summer I'm going to get to see everybody, so I'm really looking forward to that. But Riley's family, not his entire extended family, but his immediate family, his mom, who he works with every day, and his 2 sisters are all here in town. And his one sister is married and has 3 kids. And I have just grown really, really very deep familial relationships with both his sisters and his mom, and I'm really grateful for that. I feel like we really are like knit together, like truly like family. I think when you first, a lot of times, you know, meet your in-laws, it's like, it just takes time. It just takes time to break down those barriers and for everybody to feel more comfortable. And now it's like, we converse like we are, like I'm siblings with his sisters, and I'm so grateful for that. Like, I'm just really close with them. We have little tiffs and arguments like I would with my own sister or brother, but I feel like that's such a picture of like a truly deep and honest and open relationship, that we can be honest and open with each other, you know, and we're not afraid to like always be stepping on each other's toes. And it's the same with my mother-in-law. Like, we have a really like real relationship. And I'm just grateful for that, because having local family members to see and to support and for them to support me, and just that whole dynamic has been a really amazing thing. I'm super grateful for that, and they've been amazing since I first moved here. But of course, over the past 6 years, our relationships have deepened significantly, and especially with the birth of Nora, like bringing new life into this world. They're all such baby people, and I feel like we really all bonded over that. That kind of took our relationship to even a different level, maybe. So really, really cool. I'm sure I could sit here and talk for a while longer, but the reality is I am doing so well. We all have bad days and things like that, but overall right now in my life, I feel like I am really doing so well. I am happy to be living here. I am choosing to live here. I'm not constantly daydreaming about moving somewhere else. I'm not constantly looking at houses in other parts of the country, which was a daily occurrence before. I have friends that I can call and go take walks with and spend time with. I have a church, again, and that's a beautiful thing. Sounds like I'm gonna cry. It's just the allergies. I just am really grateful. I'm really grateful for how far I've come, how far God has brought me. It has been a test of patience for sure. I still kind of can't believe how truly long it took. I mean, it took years to really feel settled in here. But it was such a worthwhile pursuit, because look at our life now. Like, we live in an area where the cost of living is so affordable, and that allows us freedoms that we wouldn't have if we lived in a more expensive big city. Both of us are self-employed, and so we have super flexible schedules. We get to be around to raise our daughter and to see each other, and that there's a beauty in that is so amazing. I love the weather. Except for that crazy snowstorm. Aside from that, I love the weather here. It is 65 degrees right now and breezy and wonderful outside. I love Texas weather. I would much rather be hot than cold, so the summer doesn't bother me at all. And the spring and fall are so beautiful. And usually the winter's super mild, and usually we take walks and we're outside all winter long. There's just so much goodness. So this is not a video of advice or encouragement, and I know everyone is on their own journey. But if you were in a place where I was several years ago, and because of your marriage or partnership, or because of some other circumstance, you are sort of going to be where you are for a while longer, whether you like it or not, I just want to send you so much love and support, because I know how hard it is, and tell you that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there is so much goodness on the other side of the pain and the struggle. Now I really might cry. I was so miserable for so long, and now I would never give that up. I would never go back and take away this struggle, because the Blair that I was before I went through all of this is such a different person than the woman that I am today, because I feel like I've been so refined. I feel like my compassion and empathy for lonely people has just grown exponentially, because I actually know what it feels like to be truly lonely. And whenever I meet someone who's new to town, I try to really take them in, because I know what it's like. It's not easy. So as hard as it was, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back and change anything about it. It was what I was meant to go through, and it was a hardship that I was meant to walk through. And one day in the next, decade or so, I really want to write. Writing is my first love, and I really want to write a book or a memoir, and just talk about really the arc of this whole story and what this really looked like, because 3 or 4 years ago, I would have loved to read something like that from someone who got it, who's I know what it's like to just literally hate where you live and hate everything about it. And now I can say with true honesty, I love living here. I'm so happy. I just am we're really in a good place. So I want to thank you guys for your support and for coming along on this whole journey with me. It's always evolving. Life is never perfect, but things are going really well right now, and we're so grateful for that. So I just want to send you guys a big hug, especially to those of y'all who are experiencing loneliness. I'm so sorry. I know it's so hard, but I hope you guys can find some connection, maybe even in the comments below. If you just share a little of your story, other people can kind of support you in that way. But thank you so much for following along, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Really quickly, I have been taking a break from weekly vlogs simply because I just got really bored of filming them. My life is very rhythmic. It's the same thing week after week, especially right now where there's not a lot of like travel or anything like that. And so I just felt like I was filming the same things every day, and I got bored of it. So I've been doing kind of different types of videos over the past few weeks, and I'll get back to weekly vlogs probably in the next couple weeks. I'm starting to get the itch again, but I just need to take a little break. So that's the story. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.